As training camp and preseason are wrapping up, there's always questions about how the rookies are looking, mainly the first-round picks. And for Minnesota Vikings, first-round safety Lewis Cine taking number 32 overall. By the way, the Vikings need to get used to drafting number 32 overall because they're going to do it for the 12 times in the next 10 years. But Lewis Cine, I think he's looked really good in training camp practice as well as the 2 preseason games so far. You see the speed, you see the energy, you see the tenacity, and I think the Vikings are going to have a great back-end tandem for a long time after Harrison Smith hangs him up, even though he's got a lot of good football left in him. But with Lewis Cine as well as Cameron Bynum, they're looking pretty good back at the safety position. ESPN did up a rookie roundup 2022 NFL rookie updates, preseason notes, impressions, and stats for all 32 first-round picks and a Lewis Cine. You know what I mean? This is what they said. How he has fared so far. Cine has gotten a handful of snaps with the first team during practices, but for the most part has worked as a backup to starting safeties Harrison Smith and Cameron Bynum. Close training camp observers can see Cine genuinely loves contact. He's also very aggressive in pass coverage, but knows how to avoid penalties. The best guess is Cine will eventually work his way into the starting lineup or else force the Vikings to experiment with a 3-safety scheme. His toughness and tenacity are certainly earned the trust of Coach Kevin O'Connell. I don't worry one bit about Lou, O'Connell said. And yeah, I think the Vikings, they're keeping things under wraps, where Donatell and Kevin O'Connell have talked about implementing a 3-safety look. And frankly, I think that does make some sense, especially since Sean Sullivan, the slot cornerback for the Vikings, has been sort of whatever, sort of up and down in training camp and preseason, the one preseason game that he played. So Cam Bynum working in the slot, because remember, he's a former cornerback, as a third safety, a big nickel type of look. I think that's something that is going to be unveiled during the season. Donatell and O'Connell have talked about having all 3 of those guys on the field, and I think that there's just too much talent between Harrison and Bynum and Lewis Cine. And this isn't an indictment on Lewis Cine, by the way. You know, people can read this as like, oh, you have first-round pick that's not starting. Well, number 1, he was taken 32 overall. Number 2, you got Harrison Smith ahead of him, as well as Cameron Bynum. Cam Bynum may have had one of the best training camps of all the Vikings, especially on defense. I mean, Beasley's doing himself some big-time favors in that regard. But, of course, since the Vikings traded down from 12, it's always about FOMO. It's always about who was taken and how they're doing. So Jameson Williams, who I think is going to be a really good player, but the Vikings did get good value trading down with the Lions. But Jameson Williams is going to start the season on the PUP list, which is expected. I think, frankly, if he plays any time at all, that'll be a bonus this year for the Lions. 13, Jordan Davis. I mean, Jordan Davis would have been a lot of fun. Lewis Cine's Georgia defensive teammate, but, you know, who needs a dominant nose tackle when you're running a 3-4? Although Harrison Phillips has plugged in very nicely. Kyle Hamilton is going to be the one that's always going to be compared to Lewis Cine, because the Vikings could have took Hamilton at 12, another safety that took safety Lewis Cine at 32. But Hamilton has looked good so far for the Ravens. I think that he's a different type of safety. I think Lewis Cine is more of a Harrison Smith guy. I think Kyle Hamilton is more of a Jamal Adams type safety. So even though he's working in with Marcus Williams and Chuck Clark, who had requested trade after the draft, they're in a very similar situation where they have 3 very talented safeties that they have to find work. Kenyon Green has been sort of laid up. Jahan Dotson, whatever. Zion Johnson. Now, ZJ, I've wanted in the draft for years before he decided to go back for Boston College for a senior season, but is what it is. I mean, the Chargers got themselves a fantastic offensive lineman. They have themselves a great offensive line in front of Herbert, is what it is. But luckily, Ed Ingram is working out. Otherwise, Treylon Burks, meh. Trevor Penning, 19 fights started in practice. He has more fights than pressures allowed. So there you go. Kenny Pickett. In retrospect, I mean, Kenny Pickett at 12, it's not the worst thing in the world. Small hand smells like cabbage. Trent McDuffie's a stud. We always knew that he was going to be a stud. Quay Walker, whatever. Kyra Lam with the Bills. He's going to get a lot more work since Trey White's his rehab from ACL is not so great. Tyler Smith may be forced to play left tackle with Tyron Smith's injury. Tyler Linderbaum. So Linderbaum's been dinged up, but the way that things have been going at the center position, I mean, even though I understand that Linderbaum was another undersized outside zone center, but Linderbaum was just a dude. Linderbaum can hold his ground. Linderbaum's fantastic, man. Blah, blah, blah. And then we got all the way down to Lewis Cine. But I think overall, the Vikings 2022 draft class, the first class for Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell, has looked really good because Cine is going to be a future starter. Andrew Booth Jr. Dinged up his ankle, but I think he'll be good to go. I think that Booth as well as Caleb Evans are both going to be future starters for the Vikings. Ed Ingram, already a starter, should be named here week 1 to start at right guard. Asamoah. Asamoah is sort of like in a Lewis Cine situation where he's stuck behind two very solid players, but it is what it is. But Cine and Asamoah on special teams, they'll just get after it. Asazio Demeu coming in from the Gophers. I think that the Vikings really like his potential at that 5-tech spot. I think that he was probably going to roster. I think that he's got good potential. Ty Chandler, obvious. Vidarian Lowe, I think we'll make the 53. I think that he has shown some really nice potential as a backup swing tackle eventually. Jalen Naylor, I think that he's on the roster bubble. Maybe he pulls out and wins the punt return job. We'll see. And then Nick Muse really stepped it up in the second preseason game against the Niners. I think that he's probably a favorite to make the roster over guys like Zach Davidson and Ben Ellefson at this point. So, overall, it's a really good draft class for Kwesi and the Vikings, especially if you look 2-3 years down the line, you're going to have 6-7 starters from this class. I mean, that's almost unheard of, and it's not hyperbole. These guys have shown enough talent that prove that they can be in this league, as well as they can be a future starter for the Vikings in few seasons. So you do absolutely love to see that, man. But like we said, with Lewis Cine, it's just a matter of time. But I think that Donatel is smart enough that, hey, we have 3 extremely talented safeties. We need to get them on the field and do all that up. But that's it. ESPN has evaluated all the first-round picks, including Lewis Cine. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts and their thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Most support the work. Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skull Production Value.